o'clock Saturday night. That'll be fine. All right. You ready, bud? Just kind of
Hit it up.
alrighty. Just went live. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Devy Owner's Manual. We are back. We're going to call this episode 3.01. The reason we're going to call it that is this is a new chapter in the Devy Owner's Manual. We kind of went back and forth with Chris and Adam and me and Pete and talked about it quite a bit. And we're going to start focusing more on Campus to Canton. If you're not familiar with that, we'll go over it a lot this time. We're still going to be talking about a lot of Devy players, but we'll also do a lot of, the Devy strategy that goes into these types of leagues, because there's Devy and then there's also, your rookies and your veterans and all that. So we're going to kind of focus on the whole landscape of what it takes to run a successful Campus to Canton team. So this is something that I've been thinking about for a while, and it's just something that seems to be kind of creeping up more and more leagues, and they're what I love to do too. These are my favorite types of leagues, and also I believe my co-hosts too. So I'm going to introduce my co-host, Pete. This is Pete Lawrence. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be talking a little Campus to Canton, a little Heisman to Hollis. So.
Yeah, that's another thing it's called. I forgot to say that. You'll hear it called that, and some people call them pipelines. Where basically, what my first question that I was going to ask was, what exactly is a Campus to Canton league? Can you kind of break it down, Pete? Is exactly what you think it? You kind of can explain it, I guess.
Yeah. So you have your traditional Devy leagues. MFL is great for it, where you can draft your collegiate players. But they just kind of sit on your taxi squad. They, it's no, return until they hit the NFL. Anything with Campus to Canton, we're in together, Heisman to Hollis, a couple of different names that you might call them. But for me, it's doing the college football side of fantasy as well. So now your Devy players, you're competing with your Devy pool of players in fantasy football. And it just adds that interesting dynamic too. Are you targeting dudes who you think are going to be legit pro players? Or are you going to target, hey, I can go get the quarterback at Navy, Malcolm Perry, and get just a boatload of rushing yards and points, kind of accepting that he probably isn't going to be a huge hit in the NFL. So it's just a really fun dynamic of what type of players you're going to target. And adding that, just the added benefit of more fantasy football on your Saturdays, adding a little bit more fun just when you're watching the collegiate game.
Right. My first one that I did, my Cantons, or whatever you call it, the campus side was 0-13 because I didn't have any sort of grasp. I was just getting, guys that were highly regarded in the Devy community and didn't produce well at the NFL, didn't produce the points, like your guys from Hawaii, your guys from Baylor, your guys that score tons of points like your Malcolm Perry and stuff. So I was getting smoked every week, but I had a really good Devy squad. But most of these leagues also do. You have a you have a pot for winning the college side. Some of them use a little bit of both sides. You have like kind of a joint championship. So it is really cool, but I didn't get it at first, and you got to have a couple of those guys that score really well. Luckily nowadays there's a lot of guys like Justin Fields, who puts up the crazy video game numbers, and it is a good NFL prospect too, but there are not a ton of those guys that put up these crazy numbers. You get guys that from, smaller schools that score, that rush for 2,000 yards, but will probably never be anything in the NFL. So it's definitely a balancing act. And that kind of leads to our first question. Like Eric at EGH1528 asked, what's our favorite part about Campus to Canton leagues? And I'll let you take that first, Pete. I mean, I think you kind of sort of alluded to it already.
Yeah, for me, the any fantasy football is great, but I really enjoy kind of just watching these players grow, getting hooked on to a player early in their careers, coming out of high school, guys you targeted as a freshman, or just guys you wanted to make a trade for, players who were on your favorite collegiate team. And then just kind of, seeing where they go in the NFL. And it makes, you have this added benefit where you get to enjoy their college career that much more. The NFL draft night rolls around. It's cool to see, hey, this player I drafted super late is a first round pick. It's just, it's a lot of fun just to kind of track these guys as they grow through their college careers and into the NFL.
Yeah, you hit on it right there. That's my favorite part is when you can get those late round guys, guys that weren't as highly regarded, but you see that you see a sliver of something when you watch them play. So you take them in like the 17th round, and next thing you know, they're a first round pick. Guys like if you were lucky enough for some reason to have Joe Burrow last year, I actually had him on one league. Just I took him as a late round dart throw, so that was really awesome to watch his progression go up. So that's my favorite part is that diamond in the rough thing because the way the NFL is covered nowadays, it's really hard to find those guys if you just play the NFL side. There's not many guys that get undrafted like your Philip Lindsay, that end up being, really effective in the NFL. So they're fewer and farther between in the NFL side, but you can easily do that in the NCAA side. And it's so much fun. It's gratifying. It's kind of a ego boost, I guess. Like, I did this, like I saw him, like even though it's still a dart throw, but it still feels good. It's neat to watch him, anchor your campus squad, and then you get to also have him for 5 years on your NFL squad. So it's pretty cool. It's neat to as the whole team building strategy. It's just to me, it's a lot more fun. It's a lot more work. It's a lot more thought involved. It's a lot more strategy. It is a lot more work, but it's fun work. I mean, it's if you're at all interested in college football, you've got to be in one of these leagues. So.
Yeah, we talk about finding that late round value. Just to throw one last thing is Travis May. When we're both of us are in a Heisman to Hollis, is the name of the league, but Travis drafted Rondale Moore, I think in like the 49th or 50th round of our startup draft. When Rondale Moore was coming out of high school. So now he's got probably a guy who's going to be a first round pick as, just incredible value. Basically, just throwing darts at that round. It's great. It's so much fun. You can also really, if you're really plugged in, you can take advantage of people, who aren't paying much attention to owners. I got lucky. I swindled George Kittle from a guy who was really high on Elijah Holyfield a few years back. So, hey, I'm happy with that deal on my side now that I got Kittle as my tight end, and boom.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, I love in the campus. I love getting late round picks for nothing. 6th, 7th, 8th round picks. Every year as we, each year, I'm like, I can do a lot with those. I don't care if you're plugged in and you're paying attention, you can do a lot of damage with 6th, 7th, 8th round guys. There's extra dart throws. So, Ian Deagle at Ian Deagle asks, what is a good campus to Canton draft strategy, and how early do you go for freshmen? This is like a 5-show question, I feel like. Like, man, draft strategy, it's tough. Like, do you have like a strategy, or like I'm kind of go with the flow?
Yeah, I think go with the flow. Obviously our league, so a peek behind the curtain is tight end premium. So I'm just gonna find whatever I'll go over Rivals 247, try and look who the best athletes are at tight end. And, my last couple picks are probably just all going to be dart throws at the tight end position. When we started it, I've got Kyle Pitts and Jordan Brevin, or Brevin Jordan right now. So I'm happy with that. Looking at it, it's hard because there's a ton of very highly recruited prospects who just never become anything. You never hear it, like guys who are top 10 prospects, top 10 overall, and just kind of fade off into the wind, or, highly regarded prospects who never become much of anything in the NFL, undrafted. So that it's difficult. Do you want to go freshman early? Do you want to go for proven players, in your later years? Guys like I think Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields were two of the can't miss guys recently. I don't think there was any doubt that those both were going to be very great players, but it was frustrating because Justin Fields originally commits to Penn State, backs out of that, commits to Georgia, everybody's looking at that like, dude, why are you going to Georgia, man? Jake Fromm just took the team to the national championship. You're not. I don't care how good of a player you are. You're not going to get over him. Should he have? I think that's an easily answered question right now. But it's tough because he's going to sit a year, so you're not going to get that production. Or does he sit a year, transfer, and never become anything? Look at guys like Tate Martell, highly regarded. Joe Burrow kind of fell to the wayside, goes, disappears, finally gets in the good LSU system, blossoms, and becomes the first overall pick in the NFL. It's all a gamble. I mean, you can do as much research as you can, but even these college teams who actually get to interview and talk to the guys are missing on prospects. So,
right. See, like my thing with freshmen is I'll try to get those top couple guys, like you said, but then after that, I tend to avoid them. Especially in startups, like maybe in your year to year ones, I don't care as much because at that point you're mining for guys that have been missed anyways.
mm-hmm.
Like if you're a couple years in, you're most likely your top 100 devies that are there are probably 95 of them gone, maybe 90,
Yeah.
like depending on how deep the league is. So at that point, I do tend to target the freshmen. But in like a startup, I'll try to avoid them because it's like Pete said, it's so hard to project where they're going to go now with all these transfers, with all this and that. And you just never really know. And as
Yeah. I
far
mean,
as like
guys,
overall, yeah.
guys like Ricky Slade, super highly regarded prospect coming out, very fast running back, goes to Penn State, disappears, transfers, just like, so many guys that you just totally, the transfer portal, whatever it is.
Jones, yeah, there's a couple other ones just in the last 2 or 3 years that you can think of that did the same thing. It's mine as far as an overall draft strategy, like I alluded to it before. I like to go with the flow. I tend to like to try to get a couple of the elite Devy guys early. Um, Seventh round, I would think is early for me. I don't know if we're going like that. I guess if we're doing like a draft, sixth, seventh round, I'll do a couple. I'll try to take a couple guys, and then I'll let everybody start to take Devies, and I'll just start plucking away the good veterans.
Yeah.
And then I'll come back to the Devi and kind of sweep up with what I can do. That's kind of what I like to do. I do the same thing in IDP as well. I'll tend to try to get a couple IDP guys right away, early, and then I'll start the runs or whatever, and then I'll just start plucking off all the good offensive guys and let my homework get me later. So that's kind of what I tend to do in campus to Canton as well. So
yeah, I think that's an issue question. Now, are you talking about having a fully mixed draft with collegiate and NFL, or having it both separate? We might have just come up with something that we have to take a look at.
No, I mean, like I think I tend to be a fan of all together.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna do a startup, I hate startups in like February and then they do the rookie drafts after the rookies. Like I want to do them all together. Like I want to do it all one big giant thing. Because I think that really makes your strategy even harder. It makes you think a little more about your whole team structure. I've seen people just straight up punt right off the bat and just take like a ton of Devy.
Yeah.
I had that happen, and that's just crazy to me. I can't imagine playing for 5 years from now already, right off the bat. Like, yeah, he's going to be great in 5 years, but you're still going to pay $30 league fee for the next 4 years. So, like, to me, that doesn't make any sense. But
do you have the bankroll to just eat it? Yeah.
Yeah, I see it all the time, and it's crazy to me. So there's all kinds of different strategies. Probably, I mean, everybody's seeing more and more how valuable the running backs are for short periods of time. So I think getting a couple Devy running backs is good. There's a lot of articles out there about the hit rates of Devy running backs and wide receivers, and that's something I'd like to verse myself on better, especially as this show goes on. I think Travis May talks a lot about that too. I think isn't the hit rate for running backs actually better than wide receivers, if I remember right?
I believe. Yeah, I believe you're correct for incoming freshmen. But then there's really solid. I think Travis's new model is pretty solid for all that.
Right. We'll have to try to get him on sometime. He's one that does more of the analytics side than I do, and Travis is just like he's amazing with that stuff. So we'll get you guys on a lot of. I was talking to some good guests this week about different commissioners for these leagues, and we'll get some of the guys we play with on here and stuff. We'll get all kinds of different strategies, different eyes, ways to look for this. There's all kinds of different things you can do in these drafts. So next question, Nate Christian at Nate NFL asks, how do you compare a college junior senior with an incoming freshman who you have no college tape on yet? So that's, I think we kind of sort of answered that more or less. You obviously you see a lot more. This no tape is something that I don't know because there's always high school tape out there. It's sometimes not the best because a lot of these guys will play at schools where they look like they're playing with like pee wee kids, because they're that much better. So it's kind of hard to tell, but you see what they do like in the All Star games and stuff like that. So um, I think I kind of sort of answered it before, that as your years go on and stuff, the juniors and seniors will kind of weed themselves out, and then you have to draft the incoming freshmen. But you see things. You take your scouting reports. Your 20. I'm a 24/7 is the Bible for me. That's almost the only site I use. I love their rankings and stuff. So you take their rankings and you kind of see what they can do in their college tape, and you can see a lot of the intangibles that even a freshman has against high school and stuff. And then you compare the juniors and seniors, which you've already seen. You can see most of those guys, they've got to dominate at the NFL at the college level if they're going to be really good at the NFL level. So you can kind of sort of it's obviously an inexact science. Obviously, I mean that's why there's so many of us talking about this kind of stuff, and most of us really are just almost guessing essentially. And that sounds bad, but essentially we're all kind of just we're all making educated guesses more or less. Like you can tell what a guy does against college. Obviously you want to see him dominate. I talk about that. I've talked about it before. If they don't dominate in high school, if they don't dominate in college, they're not going to dominate in the NFL. Like it's just not going to happen because the obviously the competition gets better. So you want to see the guys doing what they're supposed to be doing. The level of competition argument is one of the dumbest arguments in my opinion because if you put a guy like Trey Lance against smaller schools, he should dominate. He should do what he's doing. Like if you put him on Alabama against all the big schools, he wouldn't have the great numbers, but he should still be, you know, beating them. But if he's playing lesser competition, he should be thrashing them. That's what you want to see them do. Like if he wasn't, if he did like what Jordan, if he took a step back like Jordan Love did last year, then that kind of makes me wonder a little bit about his makeup. So that's maybe I didn't really answer that question. I don't know. Maybe I just dodged it. But I don't know if you got anything on that one. That's a tough one to answer. So
I think you're going to lean. Everybody's always intrigued by the incoming freshman. It's the new shiny toy, just like anytime we have the incoming rookies on the NFL side. Find those guys who are productive. Try and scour, okay, what are people connected in the NFL, maybe even saying about these guys? Just, that might give me a little bit more of a boost on a junior or a senior. And then, just we were talking about as far as what's their level of competition, make sure that they're performing. But, we're always intrigued by the new, the shiny new, the what if.
yeah, that's kind of how I attack every one of these guys. As I watch, I hear a name and then I watch first, and I
Yep.
like to see I like to see what I see, and then I like to read scouting reports. I'll find as many scouting reports as I can possibly find on a guy. Just so I can see, am I seeing what these guys are seeing, or what should I be watching? Like because I'm still learning. There's still some positions where I feel like I'm crazy lost on. Um, so I like to kind of double check myself, and then after I read those scouting reports, I'll watch them again. Like and probably several more times before all this is through. But it's gathering as much information as possible. I mean, that's pretty much it. That's how you compare. By the time a junior or a senior is around, I've got a lot of information on him, So when I see that freshman, I try to gather as much as I can, and then watch him as he goes. And yeah, so I don't know. Anyways, another one that kind of sort of along these lines as well. Brent Bramaski at Brent Gramaski asks, do you target or avoid any particular position early in a startup, like the top 5 to 8 rounds? Um, what about you, Pete? Is there anything you kind of, I mean, you mentioned the tight end premium, but that's probably not something you do early
Yeah.
too much, right?
No, I think you talked about the importance of the running backs, really hitting running back early, wide receiver. If you're in is anybody not in a super flex league anymore? So, so yeah, look. I was really high on like Bo Nix, Spencer Rattler last year. So those were two guys that I was trying to target. And then just hammering running back, wide receiver, tight end, just as many darts as I can throw. Find out, just Dwight was saying like, hey, looking up any resource I can. What do these guys do at the Nike Spark? The Nike combines. What are their athletic stuff? Just try and find as many size, speed freaks as I can, and just get the most athletic dudes at the tight end position. So,
right, yeah, I tend to target quarterbacks and running backs early. I'll try to grab a wide receiver or two in the top 5 to 8 rounds, but I tend to usually, in most of my leagues, I tend to get wide receivers later. I feel like it's deeper, especially in Devy. I mean, there's like 100 Devy guys that I have on my wide receiver list right now, and there's like 30 running backs, like that I really feel like are going to be great. And there's like 75 or 80 wide receivers that could be, so I will tend to push those back and just take more dart throws on wide receivers. And like you said, the tight end premium, I just would target them later, but I'm not going to worry about them too much early as well. So, all right, this one is a God. I wish I could answer this question differently. T. Conrad at Iron City 87, the best recommended platform for ease of use within the league. I believe it would be more popular if it was easier to commish and participate in, and I do think you are 1,000% correct. I think I'm huge on MFL for the NFL side. I've gotten to like Sleeper a little bit, but I still think they've got some ways to go. If Sleeper could somehow incorporate, if any of these guys could incorporate college in, I would just, it would be over for me. I tend to, I think most of my leagues are MFL and then Fan Tracks, pretty much. That is that how Heisman's that way, isn't it?
Yeah. So ours with Heisman to Hollis is MFL on the NFL side, and then Fan Tracks on the college side. There's a lot I like about Fan Tracks. Their system though can be frustrating to use as a commissioner, and as a commissioner, I just all season long is just I field complaints from my owners. It's frustrating. It's got a nice layout, but it is not. I don't think it's very user friendly. ESPN, I think, is the gold standard as far as like the app, and then just your simple, easy to use, very basic interface. And then what you can do with MFL as far as taking your different scoring. ESPN doesn't do that. ESPN doesn't care about that because your typical, that's probably a very large majority of fantasy football owners. Tight end premium, what's that? Point for first down, what are you talking about? Superflex is becoming the more popular thing. I mean, it was just last season that point per reception finally became the air quote standard for ESPN. So, I've DM'd, I've messaged with MFL a bunch of times about, hey man, like what, can we get some fantasy side on, can we get the college fantasy side on this? Can we, really take over, doing these kind of things? I think just a big issue is the legality of it. If you're profiting off of collegiate players, it goes beyond my knowledge of why it is kind of a niche thing right now. So maybe in time it'll get more traction. I think Yahoo offers college fantasy.
Yep, I'd say I've had a couple.
Yeah.
Campus to campus that had Yahoo, and Yahoo's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not. I'm not a fan, but it's okay. A little smoother and prettier than Fantrax, but
Hmm.
not as customizable and stuff. Fantrax just at times, like like I was mentioning to you earlier, we did a Devy auction today, and they still had last year's guys in the pool,
Yeah.
like still, and we're like way past the draft. Like, I'm like, why are they still even available to be like
I
Fantrax?
would like to see, yeah, Fantrax for whatever reason doesn't remove graduated seniors, drafted players off your like. So you have to go through. I mean, I was just like, oh yeah, CD Lamb is still on my collegiate side roster, so I'm gonna drop him. We're gonna,
Yeah, if some site came around that could control both of those, it would be. I would think it would not be difficult, but I mean, I don't. Maybe it is too niche right now, like you said. But yeah, it's yeah. But Fantrax and MFL does work. I mean, it does. Fantrax has a pretty deep roster of college. Like it has guys way down the rosters on all the teams. So
yeah,
it's pretty deep. They keep up with their players pretty well. So doesn't have Division Two, which so I couldn't take Trey Lance in my W auction today, which pissed me off a little bit. He's like, "Oh, that'll be in our waiver run." Like, "Oh, well, that's gonna suck." I gotta find somebody now with everybody else. Um, so I don't know. That was it. And we had one more question. Davis Forrest got this one here in last minute at DWYRM. How do I find one of these leagues? I mean, that's throw it on Twitter, baby. That's throw it on Twitter. Follow me, follow Pete. We'll talk to a bunch of guys on here in the next couple of weeks that run these leagues. That are always looking for guys, even if you can't find a startup. Find a orphan. That there's um, gosh, I'd have I don't know. I'm not good at numbers. How many of these leagues are out there, but I mean, I guarantee there's a couple hundred, probably a couple thousand of them. I would think. So just watch Twitter. Say, hey, how do I find one of these leagues? And I'm sure someone will point in the direction of somebody who has one. Um, I'm currently starting one at some point. I've been talking about it for 3 months, so I'm kind of wondering if it's too late at this point. So, but yeah, there's always some out there like Pete's a commissioner. I'm a commissioner. There's a bunch of the guys we follow are commissioners. So yeah, just throw it out there. Say you're looking for one. That'd be my best advice, Pete. You got anything?
no, that's I think, yeah, try and find, whoever's tweeting about it, put it out there, and yeah, I'm sure there'll be one or I'll probably end up doing one or two. I'm I think my next one that whatever I put together is probably just going to be a Devy specific. I don't know if I'm going to go as in depth, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, the one I'm working on has recruiting and all kinds of fun stuff. So I'm really excited, but it's from a commissioner standpoint, it is a lot of work. You imagine having bylaws for one set of leagues that also incorporates players that are coming in from another set of leagues that are it's like I keep going over the bylaws and keep finding other little things that I haven't covered or things I haven't thought of, and like I stole bylaws from other leagues and I'm tweaking them to make them the way I like. And yeah, it's a lot of work to run these leagues, and it's a lot of work to be in them too. I mean, it takes a lot of dedication. It is more of a year round, I feel like, than most dynasty leagues. Like most dynasty leagues, you have little like lulls where you don't have to do anything. There really isn't much in a campus to Canton. I feel like it's a constant, and you got a little bit of a lull like right now, but even then, it's this is time where you're watching tape on all your college guys, and time where you're getting yourself ready for the college season. So it's a lot of fun though, man. If you want to immerse yourself in football, kids, this is definitely the way to go. So I don't know. You got anything else to add, Pete? Or
No, it's good little. Like we talked about, it's growing. Superflex wasn't the biggest thing a few years back. Points per reception wasn't the biggest thing. It's in time. I think people are going to see more of this. They're going to enjoy it more. It's just going to be about finding a service that is going to be able to take care of it. and just making sure that they put together a product, ease of use, get people into it, and then just continue to grow.
Yep. And then we're gonna have rankings, and you're gonna have I get that one a lot, and I would like to tackle it, but that's an endeavor, man. To rank all your NFL guys with all your college guys. I mean, it sounds like fun, but it also sounds like an absolute nightmare. Like where do you rank treasure? There's so much that can go into that. I'd kind of like to tackle it, but that'd be kind of crazy too. To where do you rank Trevor Lawrence compared to like Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson? And then you toss in the running backs too. So yeah, whew, that makes my head spin. But I kind of want to try it too. Come on, DLF, let's get on it. So, all right, Pete, tell everybody where they find you on Twitter and let us know what you're working on right now, man.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at _Pete Law. Just wrapped up an article over at DLF where I looked at kind of ranking, use Twitter, ranking 2020 incoming rookies with 2021 incoming players on the college side. Just kind of taking a look at some of the incoming rookies and probably be dropping something on older wide receivers to move on from. So
I was every time you were posting those polls, I was yelling at you. I'm like, these people do not know how to vote. I'm like, come on now, they're voting in. You get that recency bias, that
oh yeah.
There's no way in hell I'd take Cam Akers before Jamar Chase. Come on now.
Yeah.
I was as a guy who favors the Devy guys, I was like yelling at your rankings and stuff. Like, are these guys winning? All right, you can find me on Twitter at FF People's Champ. Also working on 2020 draft profiles for DLF. I just did Michael Pittman last week. I got Brian Edwards coming up this week. Just kind of doing that and working on my crazy new league and doing more stuff for you guys. We'll have, like I said, over the next couple weeks, couple months, we'll have more commissioners on, more guys that play these types of leagues. We'll start looking at, things you got to do over the summer, things you should do to get yourself, while we got this downtime, things you can do to start, keeping yourself ready for hopefully a college football season this year. And you can find this podcast on Twitter at Devy Manual. And we will talk to you guys very, very soon. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. All right. Kind of a shorter show.
Yeah, it's good.
It's because we BS'd for an hour before, but
the usual.